Now, as a first step, we need to configure our project to use the entity framework, exactly as we did in the entity framework session, but we will do it again. First thing we will do is creating a new folder for the database context. Add new folder, and we will name this folder context. Inside this context folder, we will add a new class. The first class we will add here, we will call it application users, and click add. And the second class will be the application context. And click add. And now we need to install 3 packages. I will use Package Manager Console. You can open Package Manager Console from Tools, NuGet Package Manager, and then select Package Manager Console. And just simply paste your command here. Install package. The first package we need to install is Microsoft ASP.NET Core.Identity.Entity Framework Core. Click enter. The first package has been installed successfully. The second package will be the Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL Server. The second package has been also installed successfully. And now let's install the third package, Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.Tools. Click enter. The last package has been also installed successfully. Now let's go back to our classes. The first one is the application users. This class should inherit the identity user. And now we need to import the corresponding assembly using ASP.NET Core.Identity. So now this class is ready. Now let's go and configure our database context. The application context class should also inherit identity DB context of type application users. Identity DB context from Microsoft ASP.NET.Identity.Entity Framework Core. And now we need to add the constructor and the onConfiguring and onCreating methods. I will paste them here. The first one is the application context, and this is DB context options from the Entity Framework Core, and also the onConfiguring, as I explained these methods in the Entity Framework session. This configuration builder will be from the extensions.configuration. So now we configured our database context to use the default connection in order to establish the connection with the SQL server. Now we have here the default connection, and we need to set up our connection string in appsettings.json file. Appsetting.json file is here. Let's open it, and we can have our connection strings here. Connection strings, enter, and inside this I will add my or default connection string, and its value will be like this. The first is to decide the server, the data source. In my case, it's my machine name. How you can get your machine name? Let's open the SQL server. Once you open the SQL server, the first window will come is this. You can simply take this copy and paste it inside your connection string, like this one. And then you have to decide the initial catalog, which is your database name. In our project, we don't have a database yet, so we need to create a new database. So we have to mention the database name which we are going to create. Like, for example, let's call it as SchoolDB. And we have to say that the integrated security equal true, because in our SQL server we are using the Windows authentication. Click here Windows Authentication Connect. You should be able to see your SQL server. So now we have the default connection string here. And here, okay, this is default connection. So we need to change this to be default connection. So just default connection. Now we need to go to the startup file, startup.cs. Open this file. In the startup file, we can add configuration on the application level. So if we have something we need to apply it for the whole application, we can create this configuration in the startup file. We need to go now to configure services, and we need to add two services as we did in the entity framework session. I will paste them here. So the first service is to add database context, and our database context is the application context. I need to import the school project.context. And I need to establish the connection string using the default connection with the SQL server. And also here I need to import the assembly entity framework code. And also the second service is to add the default identity, which is Microsoft identity. And for now, this is not defined. What we should do, we will comment this for now. Just comment this, and we will go and include the Microsoft identity into our project. Right click over the project, add new scaffolded item. And from here, we can say we need the identity and just click add. From this window, we can choose the pages we need to include in our project. I will say override all files in order to include all pages and all files. And I will choose the application context. And then I will click add. So this is now to confirm that the ASP.NET Core identity was added to our project. Close this window. And now let's go back to this service and remove the comment. So now we need to include the required assembly, ASP.NET Core.identity. Now we have configured our application to use the entity framework code first.